All right, welcome to another episode of the Manaverse podcast. I'm your host, Tom Traplin, and this is the podcast where we talk about growing and building friendly local game stores. I have with me Jonathan Domatis on the podcast today, and we're going to talk about CardMill and the exciting things they are bringing to the world of sorting your cardboard. Welcome to the podcast, John. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
I am very excited to hear more about this new device that you're bringing to market.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Appreciate you putting this together and having me on.
No problem. I'm glad we could make the time. I know you're a busy guy and the countdown is coming, right? As of today, we're less than 3 weeks away.
Yeah. Yesterday I was gone to a conference call at 9 a.m. and I'm like, oh, exactly 3 weeks from right this second, our Kickstarter is going live. So it's very exciting.
Excellent. So let's back it up a little bit before we get into the CardMill and we get into the Kickstarter and all the cool things that you're working on. Who are you? How did you get to the point where you are like, I'm going to make a new, more accessible card sorter and I'm going to bring it to the Magic players of the world? How did you get to this position?
Oh man, it's such a loaded question, but it's actually really exciting. So, CardMill has been a passion project of mine that has grown over the last 30 plus years. I started playing Magic back in the early 90s, as many people my age did. We would play with my friends. We really had no idea what we were doing. It was just a really cool card game, had a lot of really cool creatures and things you could do with it. And we could sit there and battle and joke about the cards and see all the cool cards. Eventually, I got to the point where I thought that I was maybe too old to continue playing Magic. So I gave all my cards away to, I think it was either a friend of mine or to one of my cousins, who then ultimately gave the cards away because he built the same thing when he got older. So the cards are somewhere out there in the world. About 12 to 15 years ago, I started getting back into it with a couple friends of mine who are playing as well. And over the time, I just started collecting loads of cards. Throughout that period, I could either go and buy cards or trade other people card for cards. And I discovered the world of the internet. And I discovered that I can go online, talk to people I've never met, and trade cards with them. So I started doing that on Facebook and other portals. Eventually, I realized that the most painstaking part of trading my cards was getting my cards into a digital catalog or an online inventory. So I started looking for a card scanner, and this all started as a card scanner. The things that were out there were so expensive. They were so expensive and recurring monthly fees, and it just made it impractical for someone like me, who's a casual player, to go and spend thousands of dollars on a machine and hundreds of dollars in monthly recurring fees. So I said to myself, there has to be a better way. And there wasn't. So I built one. Fast forward about a year and a half, almost close to 2 years now. And we've got our prototype ready to go. We're launching our Kickstarter and hoping to bring our product to everyone, ultimately to the everyday player and collector.
That's awesome. It's funny how many people have a similar story along the lines of, I did the thing. I saw that there's this need for this thing to solve my problem. It just doesn't exist. You look around and all the options out there, like we talked about before. If you want a card sorter, it's a highly expensive endeavor.
Yeah.
Big capital investment for the most part. And the cheapest ones on the market are really out of reach for the average Magic player. You don't need an $8,000 machine to sort your collection unless you are intaking tons of cards.
Right.
So having something that kind of like falls into the middle there is obviously, like, it makes a lot of sense. How did this not exist before you decided to make it exist?
A software engineer by trade. I've been developing websites since the late 1900s. I've been building web applications, mobile applications, my entire adult career. In high school and prior, I was building little websites and making programming code and Notepad and everything. And so I said to myself, I know how to write code. I'm sure I can figure out the hardware part of it. And it's cool thing about Legos and Raspberry Pis and cardboard is that we can do a lot of really cool things. We set our mind to it. So I set out to do that and built my first proof of concept. And it took me a couple months to build a proof of concept, but eventually when I was like, oh yeah, this might actually work. It was really exciting.
That's cool. I'm curious about the inner functionality of things.
Yeah.
Not that I am fully versed in the code world, but I am at least knowledgeable enough to kind of like get a handle on certain things. But I did want to ask, because I'm sure there are people who are listening to this and probably are curious, how does Raspberry Pi come into the equation? What is a Raspberry Pi?
Oh my gosh. Oh, a Raspberry Pi is the dream, right? And it's not the only personal circuit board on the market, but it's essentially a mini computer. They give you a circuit board that has all of the different components already pre-soldered and pre-connected to it. And as a user, you can take a small SD card, for instance, and load on any sort of operating system. And there's a ton of them out there, right? But they're all very familiar. They're very similar. You can think to a Windows operating system or to a Mac OS. They're very user friendly. And it gives you a shell that you can then use different programming tools either on the Pi or separately and load them on. But you can build all this stuff directly on the Raspberry Pi, and you can write all the programming language. You can connect all sorts of different components, everything from a microphone to a webcam. I connected a camera and two little motors to start and stop cards from moving. And I connected infrared sensors to detect when things were happening. But the really cool thing about it is that all of these little pieces, right, in and of themselves, they may not be able to do much, but once you connect them through a circuit board or a computer-like system like a Raspberry Pi, it really opens up the world and allows you to build whatever you're thinking of, anything that you're imagining. You can recreate just about any consumer electronic you think about or have in your house with enough time, energy, and research. You can build that on a Raspberry Pi. Not everything, right? I don't want to make it seem like, it's the godsend to everything, but it's a quick way for prototyping and taking an idea that's just rumbling around in your head and actually making it into a physical thing that does what you want it to do most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. And thank you for clarifying that. I'm sure there are people who are like, what do you mean, like a Pi?
Like a Raspberry Pi.
You plug it into the Pi and then you go from there. It's a mini computer. It handles the functions of the machine itself. But reliability, that's a major consideration.
Yeah, right.
For any sort of scanner, any sort of sorter, you have to be able to rely on the results that it's outputting. How much of a challenge was that to get this thing to reliably identify the card as its correct condition, correct set, all that stuff?
Yeah, so I'll get a little bit more into the weeds of the thing because it's extremely difficult. Someone posted a comment on one of our social media feeds. Well, you have the original picture of the card. Can't you just compare it? And why do you need all this AI stuff? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish it was that simple. There are so many nuances when it comes to taking a picture or scanning in a photo of a card. There's ambient light, there's changes. The temperature might change some of the humidity and the viewing inside the chamber where you're taking a picture. The camera itself might not be perfectly oriented on the card, or when the card came into the chamber, it shifted a little bit. Instead of having a perfect identical version of a card that I can compare to, I have a million different versions. That's essentially what we did when we started training our AI system. We took the original image. We started with metric gathering. I wrote a program to download all of the images off of Scribble. And at the time, it was about 105,000 images, variations of the cards, right? I ran out of space on my computer, so I had to buy external hard drives. And then from there, we tried to adjust with that, and we got no confidence level in card identification, right? So we're like, okay, we need more. So then I wrote a separate program to take each of the cards and create variations of changing the colors on it, to changing the orientation, to high contrast, low contrast. We had hundreds of different variations of individual cards, right? And multiply that by 105,000 images. It was a lot of stuff. I mean, I've got thumb drives upon thumb drives of stuff. And at one point I tried to throw it up into an online share so I could get our programmers to gain access to it. I'm not sitting here waiting for this to upload. I have fiber internet and it was still too slow. Right, exactly. So then having thousands and thousands of images, taking one set, for instance, I think it was Foundation's set, just because it was more recent, we were playing around with it. And I ended up somewhere in the realm of 80 or 90,000 variations of images in that one set alone. And it's still not enough. It wasn't perfect. I got a lot of great confidence. The card identification was able to get a 60, 70, 80, sometimes 90% confidence level. And that's what we know. Oh, okay, this is actually going to work, right? And the solution is really just feed more images, give the program more to read. but then also the processing of all that images and compiling all that data together. So there were a lot of nights like that as well. Getting back to your question about how difficult, it's like, it was more time consuming. And the difficult part was having to redo stuff over and over. This is part of software development, which any software developer will tell you, it's not perfect the first time around. We have to keep iterating and keep making changes to really get to that ultimate goal. Partly why we're a year and a half later before we're actually ready to start bringing something to the world. And it's still not perfect. I'm still going to be using the next few months before production to help continue to tweak it and continue optimizing all of the software that's involved, not only for Magic the Gathering, but for all the trading card games that we're wanting to support. But yeah, it's a lot of work.
Not surprised. What would it take for something like this to exist? Just having something that can reliably identify a card. Like, as a human, it's hard for us to look at a card and know for sure. There's so many variants,
right?
But we're generally pretty good at pattern recognition. Replicating vision is one of the big challenges for things like automated driving. Understanding how we perceive the world versus how a machine perceives the world, and the difference is between those two things. It's non-intuitive. We just think, well, why doesn't the camera pick up the same things that my eyeballs do?
If I could train a computer to see what I see and understand and be able to recognize that, it'd be a game changer. I'd be able to support every single trading card game imaginable, even the ones that are no longer produced. I'd be able to support every single sports card out there. It's really exciting to see it grow and see the software and the system learn from what we're teaching them. It's almost like raising a child. Seeing the world through their lens is very unique and exciting.
Been working on this project for a couple of years now.
Right.
The changes over the last couple of years have been tremendous. The things that have come out in the last, even the last year, the last 6 months, we've seen massive accelerations in a whole bunch of different areas in terms of tech. It's fascinating the way it's rolling out. And I would imagine that as we go forward, like you said, the reliability, the confidence that you can have, the thing being able to do what you want it to do, especially when you automate it.
Right.
For things like this to progress, and you won't have to potentially have hundreds of thousands of images for every single set that's been released. Maybe you'll be able to simplify it and make it a lot more efficient, I guess.
Well, AI and software in general, right? And technology in general, not just AI. AI is benefiting from the success that we've had in technology, but technology is keeping pace with AI. We're not making it really. The technology that we as humans are able to produce isn't good enough to help the AI accelerate to the degree that it has over the last 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 years, right? We've made tremendous progress in technology and computers, even as recent as 2020 to 2025, with the advent of new computer chips and the work that the United States, China, and other countries are doing in quantum computing. But it's not fast enough. AI is sitting around waiting for us to catch up to them. Eventually, they'll do all the work for us, which I wouldn't mind hanging out on the beach while AI does my job for me.
There could be worse things in the world. That's what I was thinking when you were describing the process, is that it sounds like you just need that compute, right? You just need the data center to process all of these things in order for you to push forward into the next level. And really the bottleneck was just mass. The bottleneck for the scanner was just, you needed data. You just needed images, variants, and things for it to compare to. You just needed to put that all together. So it wasn't particularly complex. Like you said, you just needed lots of variation for this thing to understand what you needed it to do.
The machine is something that would appear to be trivial in the processing of moving a card from one area, taking a picture of it and putting it somewhere else is complex as well because of the care that we have to take with the cards. From day one, I always said, if this machine damages even a penny card, I'm going to lose all credibility, right? I remember we were planning on announcing CardMill to the world at MagicCon in Chicago. I tried my hardest to get a booth and have it there. Our engineers were just like, yeah, we got this. We'll make this, right? I wasn't able to get a booth because no one responded to it. It was actually probably for the best because it was really bad. We tried to rush the product to release, and there was one change that we made that started making cards jam and get stuck, not really thinking that the cards are running through it. I'm sitting at this table outside of the MagicCon Chicago with the engineers, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And then we realized we made this one little change and it messed everything up, right? We thought it was going to help, but we didn't fully test it. And then it was for the best that we didn't release it in February to everyone. It gave us more time to tweak things. Even ensuring the safety of the cards and the movement of the cards and the position of the cards has proven to be a challenge that I think we've overcome. I haven't had any logs and jams lately, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the interesting part about the idea of something seemingly as simple as sorting cards, right? Because
Yeah.
as people, we do this so easily. And sometimes they'll bang up a card while you're doing it too. But for the most part, it's just this simple matter of putting things in different places. We all have this in our head and it just sort of works. We don't necessarily take into account all of the processes. But when you're programming a machine, you need to account for everything. I remember having a lesson a long time ago about how to make a sandwich.
Yeah.
And as if you were trying to convey to somebody how to make a sandwich, then I'm going to follow the rules that you write down literally. And you don't realize all of you got to unscrew the lid. And it's got to go this way, not the other way. I get the knife out of the drawer, go over to the drawer, all of the little interim steps that you
have to pick up the jar. And you have to pick it up and not too hard because you don't want to break it and you want to keep holding it while you're doing this, right? Every single one of those steps. And I was thinking that is the exact same story before you said it, because computers are extremely logical. They do exactly what you tell them to do. Right. And so it's fascinating.
The fact that you've achieved it is an incredible achievement in itself. Being able to build something in a tiny package that gets the job done for the average Magic player. Like no one's ever done this before. That's the cool part.
Right. Exactly. We set out to build a product that is not only accessible to the everyday Magic player, but also that can be used by the everyday Magic player. Some of these competitor machines, they're great, but they're also really big, right? A lot of people don't have space to put a big 4 foot by 4 foot machine somewhere in their house and then use it on a regular basis. So we set out to build a compact machine that I could, and I remember talking to the engineers. I'm like, I want to put it on my desk while I'm working and I want it to do its thing. I do my work. If I need to stop and adjust it, I can, right? But I want to be able to put it on my desk or something. So that's where the compact came into play. And it's worked itself out well with the community because there's like, oh, this is great. Or I've got store owners saying like, yeah, I can put these all on one shelf and run them and not have to worry about taking up too much space. Or even collectors like myself, it's like, yeah, I'll just get out a folding table. I'll put like 5 of these on my table, scan my whole collection, and then go from there. So yeah, compact was also important on top of everything else, of course.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think that's where the interest for me anyways, in the audience that I think is probably paying attention to this fits reasonably well as a good middle ground option. If you're a store who is, buying and selling singles in especially Magic, but Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Lorcana, Flesh and Blood and Star Wars and the big six.
Yeah.
And you have an operation where you are doing this and you need to intake cards, but you're just not quite there yet where you need to, like, you can justify a $25,000 investment into a massive machine. This is a really good middle ground to kind of start that process of, okay, this is how we digitize our collection. This is how we build our inventory and set up the process of, okay, here's how we buy, train our staff on here's how to sort, here's where it all ends up, here's how we sort all the inventory. There was no real interim step for store owners before. And I think this is a really good intro space for stores that are just getting into it or want to scale up and automate some parts of it. Like you said, you could get more than one. You could have multiples and scale it up that way. You don't have to go for one super machine. You can go for a handful and grow as needed.
Right. Well, especially for the Kickstarter backers, they can get 10 machines for half the price of one of the closest competitive professional products. It might take up similar space, but once you're done with it, the cool thing about these is you can resell them or you can give them to someone else, right? You're not, I'm thinking of stores or professional collectors that have loads of cards, like they can get the machines, run all their inventory through it, and then maybe keep a couple as new cards kind of come in. But the rest of them is like, there's no reason they can't resell them to someone. I don't mind that. I don't mind if they give them to someone else. Just because one person bought the machine doesn't mean that, they're the only ones that can ever use it. Eventually, we may look at doing a larger machine specifically for stores, but we're going to do the smaller machine well, and we're going to do it right first. And then we'll see where the community wants us to go.
I like that. And I think that's another great point is that, like, if you're a retailer, there are Magic players who would happily buy these machines off of you, having retailer partners that sell the machine as well.
Right.
But let's talk about the Kickstarter. What are your goals for the Kickstarter? Stretch goals, what are you hoping for?
The most important thing goes live on July 22nd at 9 a.m. Central US time. We're going live. We'll have 1,000 early bird devices available for $350. Standard backers will be able to secure a machine for $400. And then we're going to have a variety of add-ons. Each of the machines is also going to come with 2 different sorting trays. There's going to be an alphabetical sorting tray as well as a tray that you can use for color, for type sorting. And so that's going to be with a tray that just has wider slots, wider areas to wider slots. I'm sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I was losing that word. Yeah. So we'll have those 2 that are going to come with every single machine just kind of out of the box. And then there's going to be things like you can get a hopper extender. The machine itself will hold 300 cards, but you can get an extender to add another 500 cards to it. That would allow you to load 800 cards at a time. You can add more cards while it's running. It's not like you're only putting in 300 cards and then it'll stop after that. You can just keep putting cards in. But if you don't want to have to keep doing that, you can get an extender. Also going to have a desktop card organizer, which is essentially a version of the extender, but it has a flat bottom. So it allows someone to just kind of, for the people like you and me that have cards all over our desks, right? To kind of bring a little order to some of that chaos. One of the other things that I'm excited about is we're going to offer a sorting mat. It's really a simple design, but it's going to be squares for each letter of the alphabet, A through Z. So it'll be a little bit bigger than a standard playmat, but as you're sorting, you can put it down, your cards get sorted, you put them out, you're emptying the tray, you're sorting some more. It just helps to organize the process. Think of kind of like those plastic trays that you can do when you're doing manual sorting. It's going to be kind of like that, but just in a flat piece. I'm made from the same material as a traditional playmat. What I'm very excited about is that one of my dear friends, Tony Moy, who's an artist, he's one of the best watercolor artists I've ever seen. He's going to create, if we hit our stretch goals, our stretch goal is $500,000. If we hit the stretch goal, which I'm fairly confident that we're going to, he's going to make custom art for that sorting mat that can also be made into a traditional play mat. That's going to be a unique Kickstarter only art that we're going to offer. And then beyond that, we're looking at card dividers. The machine will sort your cards. You need to put them somewhere. So we'll have card dividers to help those people as they're sorting. I have another partner creating perfect fit sleeves that have condition indicators on them. So as you're sorting them, if you want to mark that, today a lot of stores will write, near mint, LP, whatnot. Here, it'll be pre-printed on the sleeve and you can just check marks so you don't have to worry about it. Those are kind of our main add-ons that we're going to be including. We are looking to raise $350,000 through the Kickstarter, which I believe, through the first 10,000 early bird backers, we should be able to achieve that. The sky's the limit. We're not limiting the number of units that can be purchased beyond the early birds. We're also going to have packages and group bundles. There's a group of friends that all want to go in. They'll be able to get a pack of 5 or 10 units at a discounted price from the standard backer. It's going to be, so those units themselves would be priced at about $375 a piece versus the 400 standard backer, but those are larger quantities and they'll all come with some additional goodies and different add-ons already included into those bundles as well. So there's going to be a lot. My wife keeps reminding me that I need to temper the amount of stuff that I'm trying to put up here. So I'm just like, oh, well, this could be cool. People might want this, just to focus on what makes sense for the CardMill. So we're still kind of narrowing down the focus of that at this moment, but yeah, it's going to be exciting.
What time do you plan on shipping? What do you think the arrival date for people would be?
Yeah, so we're planning to ship in December. The Kickstarter will run from July 22nd to August 21st. From the end of August through September, we're going to make a couple mechanical changes to some of the movement of the sled. The card sled holds the discharge tray where the cards are sorted. When we built the prototype, we built it believing that we needed precision over speed. So in doing that, we introduced a similar gear system as what a 3D printer uses. When 3D printer is moving up and down, it has to be extremely precise. We discovered we really don't need that level of precision. We're able to achieve proper placement of the cards in the slots without having that extremely precise location. The side effect of integrating something like that is that it makes the movement of the tray and the sled slower because it has to move a lot more times for it to move a shorter distance. So we're going to change that mechanism, and we believe that we should be able to cut the time down in half. The time to process a full hopper, which right now takes about 60 minutes or an hour to process one full hopper of cards. And then we think that we can get that down to between 30 and 40 minutes. So we're going to do that in September, and then October, October and a little bit into November, creating the molds and building out all of the infrastructure needed to be able to manufacture and produce all the parts, at least anything that we can't buy just off the shelf. October and November will be manufacturing, assembly, and testing. And then our plan is to ship everything out in December.
Cool. That's very
So
exciting.
I'm hoping before the end of the year that we should be able to get the units in hand by all of our backers. So we're excited.
Wild and start
Yeah.
testing things. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. A nice laundry list of podcasters like yourself and card stores and other professionals that I've reached out and be like, hey, if you need any other testers, I have 10,000 cards. I have 100,000 cards, right? I would love to be able to help you guys test this, right? So we'll be using folks like that. And we have a nice laundry list of people that will help test and validate. They're completely unrelated to CardMill. They're just people we met through this Kickstarter journey over the last couple months. We'll bring various people on to get them devices in their hands and have them test and see if there's any issues that arise before we complete the final production run and actually get these devices out. So we'll get some real world testers on it before everyone gets them in hand.
Sounds like you have a great plan laid out for the next 6 months.
I'm thankful for my years as a project manager and software development. It's allowed me to manage this project. Yeah, absolutely.
So where can people go to find out more? To like find out what is this all about, how they can get involved and pick up 1 to 10 of their own machines?
Right now, the best place to go is to cardmill.com. So CardMill.com. You can get all the information about the product, features about it. And from there, there's also a link to our Kickstarter pre-launch page. By following the Kickstarter pre-launch page, Kickstarter will notify individuals as soon as we go live. If anyone has any questions, the thing about me and the rest of my team, we're all avid card players. And so we are part of the community and we want people to ask us questions. If I've repeated it, sometimes I'll copy and paste, but we want to be engaged with the individuals. There's a form at the bottom of our website where anyone can reach out to us if they have any questions or if they want any more details. But we got video, pictures, FAQs, a lot of great stuff up on our website and links to Kickstarter and our socials where we're constantly active. So yeah, that's the best place to go.
Definitely recommend you go check that out. What's your favorite Magic card?
My favorite Magic character would be Liliana Bess. My favorite card of hers is Liliana the Last Hope. I actually built a deck recently that is all Liliana cards, a commander deck, all Liliana cards and Liliana art. It performed terribly, but I love the deck. Liliana is my favorite character in Magic. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a nod to my favorite commander deck, which was my first commander deck that I received as a gift from a good friend of mine when I first got back into Magic years and years ago. And so it's Prosh, Skyraider of Kaerki. I tweaked that deck so well that we'll have our OG nights where me and my play group will all bring our original decks and we'll just pummel each other. And sometimes we can get through a game like 15 minutes. So it's great. So that's probably my favorite card of all time.
I like it. I'm just curious. I thought that'd be a fun thing to end on. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. This is super exciting. I think this is a great project that people should definitely check out. Go check out the Kickstarter in a little over a couple of weeks and get your CardMill.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation.
Thanks for coming on. I'm really excited for this thing. With that, I think we'll just say goodbye and we'll see everybody in the next episode of the Manaverse podcast.